Well, I'd gotten a request to do a walk-around video of the Recon to kind of see, to show some of the Recon owners, that maybe new buyers, that is, that have never cared for one before, how to do, everyday maintenance, checking the oil, tire pressures, that kind of thing, your air cleaner, just showing where things are at. Like I said, this was a request that one of the viewers had, and they just recently had bought a Recon ES, I believe. Anyway, this is the 2013 model Recon ES, and they're all pretty much the same. The only thing that's changed over the years really is the body work, and this is the current body style. But as far as the powertrain goes, transmission, tires, the tires are Maxxis tires now. In the beginning, when the Recons first came out, they were Goodyear Tracker HPs, and they're Maxxis tires now, which the tread pattern is almost identical to what the Goodyear tires are on my 2004 Recon. So yeah, I got the GoPro using it as a handheld camera, so it's a little shaky, I apologize, but doing the best I can with that. Anyway, to get to a lot of the things like your air box and stuff like that, you're going to need to remove the seat, and in order to do that, you have a lever on the left-hand side of your seat there that you just pull up. It's spring-loaded, and I've already removed the seat here, but the lever sticks through right there, and you just pull up on it and reach from behind the seat and lift up, and the little tabs, you have a tab here and a tab here under the seat that you'll see right there, and then you have this tab. Those three tabs, the two back ones have to go under those two metal bars, and the front tab has to go under that little lip right there. So you want to make sure that when you put the seat back on, that all of those are in fact under those tabs. Otherwise the seat can fly off when you're riding it, and that wouldn't be good. So looking under the seat here, this is the back side of the gas tank here. You have a lot of breather hoses. These two breather hoses here, one of them comes from the rear differential, and Honda feeds them up here to where the airbox snorkel is, which the opening to it is right here. That clear plastic tube is the snorkel, leads into the airbox there. The other vent breather tube is from the rear brake drum housing, which is sealed up. And both of those, you want to make sure they stay up here where the intake snorkel is, so that, when you're riding through water and stuff, you don't have to worry about that getting back there to your rear differential and all that. You also have your battery back here, your positive and negative terminals. It's a maintenance-free battery. So, you shouldn't have to do anything much to it other than just, if you don't ride a whole lot, especially in the winter time, I would recommend getting one of those battery tender juniors, specifically made for like motorcycle batteries and things like that. You can put on there, and it trickle charges the battery while you're not riding, and they work really good. So you got the battery back there. You have your air box right here that's the lid is held on by 4 clips here. And in order to get inside of there, you pop these clips back with your thumb, just like that. And your air box lid just pops off just like that. You can set that to the side. And this is what your air cleaner should look like if it's clean. It should have oil in it, that when you touch it, you feel the oil be a little tacky. And like I said, this is, a stock Honda OEM air filter. This one, like I said, is clean. You got a lot of dirt caked on there and debris and stuff. You need to take it out. Best thing you can do is, like I said, follow the Honda instructions in the owner's manual, and you can take and wash it out in kerosene, a low flash point solvent like kerosene. Don't use gas. That'll remove all the oil and dirt out of it, and then you want to let it dry real good, and then you buy some foam filter oil that's specifically made for foam air cleaners on. So yeah, you can see the air box there, and that's pretty much all there is to that. It's held in by a screw and a bracket here, and a hose clamp here attaches it to the neck on the carburetor. And as you can see right here is the carburetor right there. I'll tell you from experience, if you ever have this vacuum hose come off right here, any of these hoses, if they ever come off, slip off here, or they get a hole in them, or they crack, you're going to have drivability issues big time. So it's best to keep an eye on that. I had on one time on my 2004 Recon, this hose right here came off, and it wouldn't do anything but idle. And then you tried to accelerate, it would cut off on you. So keeping that stuff in mind, you want to make sure, that none of those hoses ever develop a leak or slip off, and that can happen, as time goes along. Also keeping in mind, talking about the air box, like I said, this is the opening to the snorkel right there, and you don't want to get water. I wouldn't want to get water anywhere above right here on your engine. In fact, that's kind of pushing it. Really, I don't get it anywhere above right here on the engine, because, if at least a little bit of water were to slosh up into this intake snorkel here and fill up this air box with water, you're going to stall out and draw water into the motor and create a lot of problems that you wish you never had. So I think Honda says, no more than 10 inches of water that you should travel through, but, like I said, I'd say somewhere right around in here, you should be pretty safe, but, that's about as far as I'd recommend pushing it. In the bottom of the air box is a little short tube, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to show it to you from here or not. We'll see. You have a little short tube right there. You can see where my finger is at. It's clear. And that tube right there is for draining the air box if there is any water in it, possibly. And it's held on by a little clamp that you pinch together and remove that rubber tube. And they make it clear like that so you can look in there and see if there is anything that isn't any water inside of it. But as long as there's no water inside of it, there's no need to remove it. So when it's time to put the air box lid back on, there's only one way that it can go on here, but it sometimes can be a little tricky. You want this lip of the air box to go inside of this groove right here of the air box lid. So down on there just like that, and like I said, you want to make sure it seats all the way around. You don't want any water or dust, making its way in there. All the air needs to come through the snorkel the way it's designed to do. So once you're sure that it's seated on there properly by hand, you take and snap these 4 clips back in place. Just like that, and they should all be snapped down tight on top of there, just like that. And the air box is sealed up the way it's supposed to. So that's pretty much it for up under here. You do have a tag right here that tells what model it is and the color code and all that. The R232 is for the red, and if you get a different color, you obviously have a different code. But like I said, you know, you have your battery here, airbox, carburetor, and snorkel. That's pretty much it that you access from up under the seat. And up under the seat, you have your owner's manual will be under here in most cases. I take mine out and keep it inside with me to read. You have an auxiliary gear change tool here on the ES models. And what this does is if you break down on the trail, your ES buttons right here were to quit working, you would take this lever out from under the seat here, and there is a shaft down here, which is the same shaft that the foot shift models use. You can see it right there. That little part there, you would actually take that out, that lever up there, and slide it on to that shaft. And it's not meant to use as a foot shifter. It's meant to use to shift by hand. And you know, you shift through, I think, gears 1, 2, 3. I think Honda recommends, you know, in order to get back, you know, off the trail and back to the repair shop kind of thing, so it doesn't leave you stranded. But I've never had to do that. The ES always works really well, but that's just a backup, like I said. You also have recoil start for backup on these, which is right here, and I rarely ever have to use that. But if your battery were to go dead or your starter to mess up, you have that pull cord right there. And when you pull that out, you want to make sure you pull it back to the left, away from this plastic here, because if the rope rubs against this plastic edge, it will eventually wear the pull starter cord out, so you don't want to do that. Moving down here, as far as checking the oil on one of these, your oil filler cap and dipstick are all a common piece, and it's located right here. And you know, you just basically unscrew that, and you pull it out. You want it to be at that top line, and that grid on the end of the dipstick is a safe fill. If it's down at the bottom line, that means you need to add oil to it. And also, when checking this and reinstalling the dipstick, you want to make sure that little black rubber O-ring stays on this dipstick, in fact, because if it doesn't, when you go through water or something like that, also allow dirt and things to get inside the engine, so it keeps the water and dirt out. And you want to make sure that O-ring stays on there and that it's not damaged in any kind of way. And you know, if it's cut or damaged, you need to replace that O-ring so it makes a good seal against the engine when you put the dipstick back in. So you just reinstall it like that. You know, and just make sure you don't cross thread this, because it is plastic. So you just, you know, start off turning it real easy and just snug it down by hand, and that's all there is to that as far as adding and checking the oil. You do have an oil fill, or oil drain plug up under here, I should say, and a piece of pine straw. Hey, it's going to be hard to see, but basically, right here where that hole is at, that big hole is your oil drain plug up in there, and I think it takes about an 11/16 socket. It also, I mean, a metric would work as well, but you know, you get the idea. And take that drain plug out. There'll be a sealing washer with that drain plug. You want to make sure you reinstall that sealing washer whenever you reinstall that drain plug, so you don't have any leaks. You know, you want to snug it up, but don't over tighten it either. So yeah, moving back here to the rear differential, as far as any kind of maintenance and stuff goes on that, you would want to check this periodically as far as the differential oil here goes. It is SAE 80 weight. Hypoid gear oil is what Honda recommends, and it's actually stamped right there. It tells you on the differential case there. But anyway, I found that this Lucas heavy duty high performance 80W90 gear oil, it seems to work really well. The Honda shaft drive oil is also very good as well. But you can see right there it says for hypoid gears, and I can tell after putting this Lucas in here that it just rolls along a lot easier. It seems like it's a lot less resistant, so I can tell it's a really good oil and all. But anyway, if you are going to service this differential, basically what you need to do, you have 3 plugs on here. You have your filler plug, which is right there. That takes a 17 millimeter socket, I believe it is, to loosen that, and there's an O-ring inside of there that seals this against this aluminum case. Now, some of you, most Recons do not come with the trailer hitch already installed, so if you don't have a trailer hitch, you don't have to worry about that, but I have installed the optional trailer hitch on mine, and the trailer hitch is held on by 3 bolts. I believe it's a 9/16 socket. You have a bolt here, and a bolt there. Those are 3 mounting points, and up under each one of these 2 bolts is a lock nut. So you would have to get, a wrench on the bottom and a wrench on the top to tighten and loosen those. This one, however, goes into the aluminum case, and it just runs down with 1 wrench. But the reason I say that is if you do have the trailer hitch, I have found that it is easier to remove the trailer hitch to get to the check bolt, which is down right back in here. I might have to see if I move the light and go up under here. Your check bolt is right there. That's your check bolt right there. And that's what you actually check the gear oil level in this differential with. And is that right there? But as I said before, you don't have to do it every day or every time you ride, but probably depending on how much you ride, every couple of weeks to once a month would be good to do. And all you got to do is take and loosen that, and there's a sealing washer with that check plug there, and as soon as you take that plug out, there should be some oil seeping out of the hole there, and if it is, it's full. All you got to do is reinstall the sealing washer and the plug back in the hole, and you've got enough gear oil in there. That's a 10 millimeter plug there. And the same thing with the drain plug up underneath here. I can see if I can try and show where that's at. That's your drain plug. It's a hole cut in the skid plate there. It's also a 10 millimeter plug with a sealing washer, and that's what you're going to remove to drain this gear oil out whenever you need to change it. And obviously, if you do change it, you want to drive the 4-wheeler around for a while to warm up this oil so that it will drain completely and quickly. Otherwise, if it's a cold day or the oil is cool, it won't, drain properly. And, obviously, too, have this cap loosened up so it can vent and breathe, and that'll allow it to drain easier, too. So, you know, like I said, if you have the trailer hitch, it's probably a little bit easier to get to your check plug if you remove this, you know, but anyway. And like I said, I recommend this right here if you're not going to use the Honda shaft drive oil. They say, you know, use an equivalent hypoid gear oil, and I would say this Lucas is the stuff. You know, I can tell the difference running it in there. It just seems like it there's a lot less rolling resistance, you know, in there. But it obviously, you know, they use this stuff in race cars and everything. But you have to forgive me. I'm working at nighttime with this and this limited light, so I'm trying to do the best I can here. So you have that, you know, and you have this is your rear axle assembly. You know, your differential and your rear brake drum are one housing. And another thing I'll tell you about these aluminum housings here, whatever bolts or plugs that you're tightening into them, you want to be real careful not to over tighten the plug, because either you're going to snap the plug off inside of this aluminum case, or worst case scenario, you would crack the aluminum case and have to replace the whole thing. And that can be quite expensive, you know, from what I hear. So, you know, just to save yourself that headache, you know, don't over tighten your bolts and plugs that go in these aluminum cases. Over here you have your, like I said, rear brake drum, which is fully sealed. And the only adjustment are these wing nuts here, and I've never had to adjust mine. I'm not really hard on the brakes a whole lot when I ride. I just typically use the engine braking more than anything. But if you do have to adjust your brakes, you would, you know, move these wing nuts here accordingly. But like I said, I've never had to do it, and you know, whatever the Honda owner's manual says to do as far as that would be that's what I would recommend doing. Is following that. So yeah, you have your muffler back here, and it's pretty simple. You know, this is pretty much a standard thing for all the Honda mufflers. They have a spark arrestor inside, as you probably already know, and that has to be serviced periodically. And what I've found is that it's best to do that more often than not. I think Honda says every 100 hours, but I do mine a lot more frequent than that, because there's a lot of carbon soot that builds up inside of these spark arrestors. And this plug here at the bottom is what you need to remove right there to take out and do what Honda calls purging the spark arrestor. And as far as that goes, it's not hard to do. You want to make sure the exhaust pipe and muffler are cool, and remove this plug right here. And usually when you remove it, there's going to be about a handful of soot will fall out, and you know, on the ground. And take, you know, that plug and wipe it off, you know, any debris or soot that's stuck to the threads, and set it to the side. And what you're going to do at that point is start the four-wheeler up. And what Honda recommends doing to purge the spark arrestor is to take, and I'll find a spot for my light here, is to take and block this main exhaust pipe opening right here with a shop towel. This is a paper towel I'm just using for demonstrating purposes. You want a shop towel definitely, but you're going to block this hole right here. And mind you, this plug needs to be removed completely out. And when you block this with the engine running, it's going to force the exhaust gas out of this little hole down here. So you hold this rag over the main exhaust opening, and while you're holding that, you reach with your other hand, or either get somebody else to do it for you, and that person or you will rev the engine up in anywhere. I think Honda says 20 times, but 10 to 20 times, rev it up pretty high while momentarily blocking this main exhaust opening and forcing that exhaust gas, soot, and everything out of this bottom plug. And that's going to purge that spark arrestor and clean it out, so that that your engine doesn't, suffer performance-wise, and the spark arrestor performs as it's supposed to as well. And then you would just, reinstall the plug at the bottom there, like you did before, and make sure it's snug. You don't have to over-tighten it. And that's all there is to purging the spark arrestor on one of these. Pretty simple. And moving on up front here, there's not really a whole lot in terms of things up here that need servicing. You do have an oil cooler up here for the helps cool the engine oil down right there where my finger is. It's kind of a thin rectangular shaped heat exchanger. There is the oil cooler. And the only thing I can recommend with that is you don't want that to get caked up and those fins get plugged up with dirt and mud, because it will cause the engine to run hot or possibly overheat, because the oil cooler is not allowing, if there's dirt and mud on there, it won't allow air to pass through those fins and cool the oil down the way it's supposed to. So what I do is when I wash it, I spray it with some Simple Green degreaser, something like that, and just use very, very low pressure water. You can't use high pressure water on there; it'll bend those heat exchanger oil cooler fins there. And if you bend the fins, it's the same as if it gets plugged up with mud or dirt. It won't cool the oil down the way it's supposed to. The air has to be able to pass through those fins in order to do its job. So, I just say, keep an eye on that, make sure it doesn't get plugged up with mud, and that way your oil cooler will be doing its job of keeping your oil at the right temperature when you're riding, saving your engine, a lot of wear and tear and things like that. And, you have your shocks and things up here and stuff like that, and brake lines. As far as the brakes go, there's really not a whole lot of things. I mean, they obviously can be adjusted, but I prefer to let the dealer do that as far as that goes. But there is this little red plug right here that you'll see where my finger is pointing, and that is if you ride through water and for some reason the drum brakes up front here get full of water. You would position this red plug at the bottom like that and pull it out, and it's supposed to let any water that is potentially in there drain out so that it doesn't stay in there and rust out the brake components in there and cause your brakes not to work effectively and things like that. But I have never had to do that, so it's there though if you need to do that. But like I said, you have your brake drums right there inside each front wheel, and there's not really anything other than that up here that needs any kind of servicing. You obviously have your skid plate right here that helps kind of protect the front of the frame and things like that. Back there, that cylinder-shaped thing straight ahead back there on the front of the engine is the electric shift motor. It actually shifts, it actually disengages the clutch and shifts the gears when you mash those ES buttons on the handlebars up there. And you have your headlights up here, which the headlight buckets are sealed and to keep mud and water out of the bulb and things. But you would have to remove those buckets if you ever had to replace the halogen bulb in there. And yeah, that's pretty much it as far as up front goes and the undercarriage, that kind of thing. Your tire pressure and everything, is just like it is with any tires. but obviously these are low pressure tires, so they hold very little air. And I would highly recommend, going by whatever Honda says for your cold tire pressure. In the winter time, you might want to go just a tad bit higher than that, because the air pressure has a tendency to drop down when the four-wheeler is sitting in the winter time. So I think on here Honda, they'll tell you on here what to run for a cold tire pressure on this little tag right here. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but it says cold tire pressure, front 2.9 psi and rear 2.9 psi. So I mean, if you ran 3, if you couldn't get it right on 2.9 and you ran 3 in all of these tires, it wouldn't hurt anything. And Honda provides a gauge in the toolkit back here, which is inside of here. This is your little storage compartment here. And you have in this little cylinder here is your tire pressure gauge and things such as that. Just basically take this cover off. Get it off here. And this right here is the Honda low pressure tire gauge. And again, you have to use a low pressure tire gauge on these tires for it to read properly. Can't use a regular car tire gauge on them. It has to be a low pressure gauge like this, and these work pretty good, so check out your toolkit back there. Honda, unless they forgot to put it in there, it should be one in there, and it works, very well. You have your screwdriver, you have a Phillips head and a flat head there. You also have, if I can get it out, you also have a spark plug socket right there, and the handle to the screwdriver is right there that you can slide either in and use that way. And that's pretty much it. All that stuff fits inside this little cylinder, and it's pretty watertight and stuff, so you want to make sure you put all that stuff back in there whenever you're through using it. And also keeping in mind your brake fluid level. You have a little sight glass right here, and there'll be a line right there that says lower. You want to make sure that the brake fluid level inside that sight glass stays above that lower level mark. As long as it's above that, you don't need to add any. And it says on here to use DOT3 or DOT4 brake fluid from sealed container. And you just take these Phillips head screws out, and this little rectangular cover here for the reservoir will pop off, and you would put your brake fluid in that way. But I tell you, I've owned mine 2004 is 10 years old, and I've never had to add any brake fluid to it over the years, so that tells you anything, yeah. But that's pretty much it, just maintaining your tire pressures, and keeping your engine oil changed. That is, I'd say do that. Obviously follow what the book says, Honda recommends that you do, but if you ride really frequently, because these don't actually have a typical oil filter, you would it would be a good idea to change the oil more frequently, definitely, and use the recommended grade of oil, motorcycle oil, that Honda recommends. Is also a wise choice. That Honda GN4 is what I use, and it's a really good oil and all. Yeah, that that about does it. You know, it's not a whole lot else. You know, it's, in terms, these are pretty simple to maintain. That's one of the joys of owning them. You know, they're not a whole lot of fluids to change and things like that, and just keep that stuff maintained and all, and you know, they're fun to ride. I think one thing I forgot to mention is about the gas. If you don't burn high test gasoline in these, you would need to, I'd say, you know, maybe every 2 months, maybe put some seafoam in the gas tank, which is a fuel system treatment. You can get it at like Walmart or places like that. And it comes in a can. You don't have to use the whole can. You just follow the directions on the can based on the amount of gas you're adding it to, and that'll clean the carburetor out, you know, and keep it running good and all that kind of stuff like that. But I burn high test gas in mine for the simple reason, if there's a period of time that, you know, that they sit and I'm not riding, the you know, the gas doesn't tend to degrade quite as quickly, and you know, you obviously get better performance out of running high octane gas in these, in anything really, because I've tried both and I can tell the difference. So but that's up to the individual, you know, what type of gas they run in them. But that's what I do, you know, and everybody's got their own opinion about that. So, but anyway, I do recommend, regardless of what gas you use, that you put some kind of fuel system cleaner in, like seafoam. Seafoam's been around a long time, and it works really well. So that's what I use, and I'd highly recommend that product if you're looking for a fuel system treatment for your Recon, or any four-wheeler for that matter. I mean, they're good. That stuff's good for any kind of piece of equipment, you know, tractors, lawnmowers, weed eaters, you name it. So, cars, trucks. But anyway, so that should about conclude this video, and you know, the controls and everything out here are pretty self-explanatory. You know, like I said, this video is supposed to be about you know, maintenance type stuff, you know, where things are at. I got a request from one of the viewers, you know, that wanted to that had just bought a Recon ES and wanted to see, I believe his channel name is Cat versus Dog, if I'm not mistaken, but requested, you know, a video like this. So I hope it, you know, it kind of showed some of the things that they were looking for, and helps out other people too who, you know, have never owned a Recon before and that kind of thing. So but yeah, we'll start it up real quick, and that should about do it for the video here. A little bit cold. And that's another thing, you know, the Recons are cold-natured, so you have to be patient with them when they're cold. They haven't been running, you know, they're going to be a little temperamental at first until they get warmed up good, but once they get warmed up, you know, there's no problems. I think one thing I did forget to mention, now that I think about it, let's see here, my light is your fuel valve here. The arrow on the valve there, whatever it's pointing to, like right now it's in the on position, that's where you want to have it for normal riding. to the off means it cuts the gas off. You want to put it on off when you shut the engine down and are storing the four-wheeler, you know, you're parking it for a while. With the arrow pointing straight up to reserve, RES there is your reserve capacity. If you run out of gas with it in the on position, you switch it to reserve and you have enough gas to hopefully get back to camp or, you know, gas station, wherever, so you can refuel. One thing to keep in mind, and they say this in the Honda's owner's manual, is to make sure when you're refueling the gas tank with gas that you have this fuel valve in the on position, because if you don't, if you have it in the off or if you have it in reserve, if you were to run out of gas at a later time, you would run out of gas and you would have no reserve capacity to use. So just kind of keep that in mind. Like I said, that's in your owner's manual on the Recon, so that's not something I'm making up. But, oh, and also, I forgot, that's where your spark plug is at. It's the NGK plug. You need to make sure you use whatever NGK plug is recommended in the Honda owner's manual, and you shouldn't have any problems out of those either. Pretty easy to get to too, right up in there. That about does it. That's all there is to it. Pretty simple machines, you know, and easy to maintain. So give it another rev or two here. Got one of the better sounding exhaust notes, I think, in my opinion. But hope you enjoy the video, and thanks for watching.